Hi Tosas, Merry Christmas. Christmas, also known as the Feast of the Nativity, is an annual festival commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ. It's observed primarily on December 25th as a religious and cultural celebration amongst billions of people around the world. On today's episode, my crew and I will take you on a journey of our work year in review, and will later share some of the things we are thankful for, which obviously you, our esteemed viewers, are on top of the list. Random fact, before we delve into today's subject matter, did you know the leap year 2020 birthed the second palindrome date, 02/02/2020? The first palindrome date was 909 years ago, 11/11/11/11. The next one will occur 101 years from now, 12/12/21/21. Maybe this is why 2020 has been a year of a kind. I mean, it started with the yays and cheers, the prayers and thanksgiving. We made our New Year resolutions filled with so much hope and aspirations. But as the saying goes, man proposes, but God disposes. No one expected to be locked down for the majority of the year due to a global pandemic. No one expected most of the events that took place in 2020. However, we must be thankful to God that we're alive to even have this conversation today. So without further delay, on today's episode, we'll be reviewing all the highlights that happened in 2020. Take a look. Welcome back to the Weekend Show. Joining us now, we have three gentlemen that will be walking us through the voter education process, what to do pre, during and after the elections. We have Dr. Idahosa, who will be telling us about the litigation process, how to collate evidence if you believe that your votes were compromised during the election. We also have Bishop Johnson, a security expert, who will teach us about some security measures to take during this election process. And finally, we have Mr. Osaze Oluwole Uzi, who is the Director of Publicity and Voter Education at INEC, who will be walking us through INEC's 7 steps policy for the upcoming elections. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So I would like to talk about the security measures first of all. There has been voter apathy in regards to women who feel that the election doesn't necessarily produce a conducive environment for them to be able to exercise their universal suffrage. What are some security measures that they can take to ensure that they're protected during these elections?
Let me start by saying that it's quite unfortunate that during a process that is supposed to be very sacrosanct to nation building, that we have to worry about security to exercise such fundamental right. But that is where we are today. I know that in the other clients, security is never an issue. You can just wake up anytime and you go there and you cast your vote. But that is not the case here in Nigeria. We have to be very realistic about where we come from. So, be that as it may be, there are certain things people can, certain actions people can take as individuals to stay safe. Now, you know that the security agencies are going to impose curfew on the day of election. And I believe that the reason why that is done is so that they can limit people's movement from their own particular polling unit and to other polling units going there to cause havoc. So people should try as much as they can to limit themselves to the particular polling unit where they're going to cast their votes. There should be no movement from one polling unit to another where you have no business. If you you go to cast your vote, conduct yourself in an orderly manner. Follow the instructions of INEC officials who will be at the polling unit. If they say queue up, stay quietly. When it gets your turn, you'll be able to exercise, your own franchise. also follow the instructions of security officials who are going to be there. Whatever they ask you to do, it's important that you follow those instructions and conduct yourself in a very peaceful and quiet manner. I believe that if you do all those things, you wouldn't have any cause to worry, and avoid being used as a political talk, because that is very important in this country. If you look at some of the politicians, their words and keys are not even in the country as we speak. So woe behold that individual who is going to allow himself to be used as a political talk, because you do that, then you put yourself in a collusion cause with security officials, and then you could get hurt. So.
Thank you so much, Bishop. So, Mr. Uzi, can you walk us through the 7-step process INEC has released for voters who are going out to exercise their votes? What are the processes when they get to the polling unit? What happens then?
Thank you. If you get to a polling unit, if there are several people there, you join the queue. If there's nobody there, you walk straight to the first official, and he will or she will look at your PVC, because you must go with your PVC. He or she will look at the PVC and ascertain whether you are actually in the correct unit or not. If you're not in the correct unit, he or she will direct you to where you should be voting or ask you to leave. But if you're in the correct place, you go to the next step. He looks at it, sees that if it's your face on the card, if it is, and it corresponds to your name, then he'll send you to the next official, who will now use the card reader to ascertain whether that card, first of all, whether it's genuine, whether it was issued by INEC, number one. Then number two, if it puts the card reader there, it will pop up with your biometric details, your face and your details, and then you will be requested to put your finger, any of your fingers, on the aperture, so that it can ascertain from your biometrics whether you're really the owner of that of that card. So that basically is the second step. And if you are, then he'll direct you next to the next official, who will go to the register. And in the register, we have the photographs, names, and particulars of all registrants. The law says he should tick that register if you show up for voting. He looks at your PVC and ticks the register, and then gives you the polling instruments, the ballot paper. If it's one election, he gives you one. If it's 3 elections, he gives you the 3 ballot papers. They are color-coded in accordance with the election. So you have, for example, the first day, on the 16th, exactly 1 week today, you have the green, the red, and the black, depending on the election that you have. And he will have to stamp it and sign to show that he or she is the authorized INEC official, has issued that ballot paper. So if you bring a ballot paper from home or anywhere else and it's not signed, it's an invalid vote. That's what the law says. So that after stamping and signing and dating it to show that it is the election for that particular date, he gives it to you, folds it. Because in most of the cases, in the presidential, for example, there's 73 political parties, so it's quite a lengthy ballot paper. So he folds it and gives it to you. Then you take it next to the cubicle. There's a cubicle where you're supposed to mark your
that's step 5.
say the choice. Yes, that's the 5. You take it to the cubicle, and there you use any of your fingers, your thumb or any of your fingers, to indicate your choice, being very careful to show that it doesn't cross the lines of
in all 3 ballot papers.
In all 3, if you wish to vote for all 3, and I suppose getting to the polling.
And I'm guessing the 3 are for presidential, Senate, and House of Representatives.
Correct, for the first election, for the 16th.
Okay.
And on the following 2 Saturdays later, you have the one for the governorship and state assembly. For those in Abuja, you have the FCT elections. There's no governorship election, no state house assembly election in Abuja. So you have to do for the chairman and councillor of your ward. Okay. So after indicating that, you fold it again so that nobody sees it, because by law, everybody is supposed to maintain the secrecy of the ballot. You are not supposed to show people. People are not supposed to spy on how you voted. It's a sacred duty. So you fold it up and then you come out of the cubicle, because you voted in secret now, but the law says you must cast your vote in the open. You must put the ballot into the appropriate box. For the first election, there will be 3 boxes color-coded again. So your ballot paper with the green edge, you put in the green box. The one with the red edge, you put in the red box. The one with the black, you put in. Careful to follow those simple instructions. So in full public gear of everybody in the unit, you cast your vote. Then you have a choice whether to stay and remain and watch the process unfold up till the declaration point, or you might choose to go home or go about any other duty you have for that particular day.
On the program today, on the lifestyle segment today, we have Belama, whose birthday is today. He's the founder of Tasafo Naija. Yeah. Happy birthday and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How old are you turning?
I'm actually 17, turning 18. Yeah. True.
I like that. Forever 17.
Yes.
I like that. We also have Lulu Okonkwo, an actress. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
My guest host this morning is Zikora Okwowewan.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's
Thank
program
you
as
very
well.
much for having me.
The topic today is social media, the new culture social media has bred. Belema, you're the founder of Tatafo Nigeria. Tatafo Nigeria has a hit of about 1.5 million interactors every single day. What have you noticed about the lifestyle shift, the cultural shift that social media has caused in our society, particularly as it pertains to Nigerian youth?
Oh, that's a serious question. Social media has come with it good, but unfortunately a lot of ills. Let me use the word ills with it. And the sad thing is that nobody can actually do anything to check it. Because social media is a free space. You do whatever you want to do with it. The only good thing is that if you don't like what you're seeing, you can block, you can unfollow, you can mute, but you really can't stop people from doing what they want to do. In other climes, or even in Nigeria, some people have been able to take good advantage of the social media, but I dare say the culture it's breeding is not too good for our society, and we need to somehow have a voice, right, to speak for those that are doing good, because you can't actually stop the bad, except the owners of the platform remove them from the platform. So the best you can do is to leave and maybe magnify those that are doing good with the platform, because there's a lot of good that can be done with the platform. As seen in, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, where a small child that had a heart issue was brought to social media, actually made that story go viral. Yeah, and in 48 hours, 70 million was raised for that child. That's a good part of social media. This is a child that has been going around since 2017 and has not been able to raise over 500,000. But in 48 hours, social media was able to help the child raise over 17 million. Yes, I got calls from China, I got calls from everywhere. Well-meaning Nigerians got across to me as regards that issue. So that's the good. But there's also the bad. And can I give an example of a bad?
Of course.
You would have heard about the Asiwaju story on Twitter.
Yes.
Very painful.
So please recap for our viewers who haven't heard of that
Okay,
story.
a certain Asiwaju was alleged to have raped a lady in 2017, and these allegations were brought to the fore 2019 January. He vehemently denied those allegations, but he said when the allegations came out, his mom just recovered from heart surgery and died on hearing the allegations about her son. And many images were put up on the media. Sad enough, he could not take the pressure. He committed suicide a week later. Now, why this is personal to me is that I know Asiwaju personally. I didn't know it was him while I was following up the story as a blogger, because the Asiwaju they were talking about was in Ibadan. The Asiwaju I know is based in Abuja, so that's not the Asiwaju. Until I woke up on a Saturday morning and I saw pictures going around the internet and rest in peace, rest in peace. He had apparently checked into a hotel in Lagos with 2 bottles of Sniper and drank 1 bottle. And he's no more. And this is quite personal. I was like, what? So you see, cyberbullying, social media has its good and has its bad.
Hamza Lawal is an activist who has successfully led grassroots campaigns in over 40 African countries, with a 9-year experience in the non-profit sector. He is the founder of Follow the Money, a Pan-African grassroots data-driven movement, and leads a team of technology and innovation-driven campaigners. He is currently the Chief Executive of Connected Development, CODE, and he won the One Africa 2016 award. He is one of the influencers of the Not Too Young to Run movement. On today's episode, we celebrate Hamza Lawal for recently winning the UN SDG Action Award for Mobilizer of the Year 2019. Hamza Lawal, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I almost feel like I prophesied this into your life, because I always call him a community organizer. He is that when it comes to
No, you're
mobilization.
taking credit for that. He's like, I prophesied it. Hallelujah.
Listen,
Pay your tithe.
You know how it is how we take suffering where you say you have headache, and I was like, the one I had yesterday was worse. That's what we're doing for Hamza. So I prophesied. I saw it coming. Like, Hamza, I
What
was
else
so
did you
proud
see
of you.
coming?
Honestly.
So
The
I
money
wanna
you're
know.
about to share for us. Welcome to the show, Hamza.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
Congratulations, that's all we can say. You, out of 2,000 nominees, you're the only African to bring home this award. Tell us about it.
So I got an email 7 weeks ago from the UN say classified, you've been nominated for an award. We're inviting you to attend the Global Festival of Action where the winner will be unveiled. And then I started processing my paperwork. You know, we're supposed to go together with you, but then your passport got stuck at the embassy. So we got to the UN, and the first day was for the finalists. So out of 2,000 entries from 147 countries around the world, you know, we had delegates of 1,500 and speakers of over 150 people, and so they shortlisted to 21. And then 21 of us would have to come on stage and pitch for 3 minutes, just to talk about what we do. For 3 minutes, tell stories. So for me, I got on stage and talked about how we started our movement in Zamfara State and how we're now Pan-African in Kenya, Gambia, Liberia, and you know, Cameroon. And then that evening, now, when they were about to, mention the winner, and the interesting part was Mobilizer was the first category. So, you know, I was just sitting there about to have an heart attack, and I traveled with 2 of my colleagues, Chambers and Zeliha. Chambers was already collapsing. Zeliha was literally about to cry, and we just had Follow the Money. Oh. That moment was amazing. It's like, wow, something good. You know, we as young people, like, again, this award, as long as, as much as it's for Follow the Money, I think most importantly is for Nigeria, and specifically for young people in Nigeria, that when we commit, when we're focused and dedicated, you know, the sky is our starting point as young people. And this also connects to the fact that the world is currently debating illegal migration. I started this movement 8 years ago because I had a vision, or I had that drive. And today, I'm being recognized by the United Nations. I never did plan it, but what I know is I was consistent and I was focused. And this, for me, is also saying, well, the world is recognizing you, so it means you're doing something different. So, yeah, it's amazing. I feel like I want to cry.
Yeah, please, I'm calling from Abuja. I want to read. My name is Harry from Abuja. Please.
Hi, Harry. What's your opinion?
Okay.
Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, please. I'm really laughing in my living room at that guy in black. I don't know if he claimed to be a public analyst, or I don't know what he claims to be. But a red flag for me is for somebody to sit there in the studio and say everything is a total failure. I laugh. There's nothing as a total failure. That word, you can't use that word on anything.
So let's hear your opinion. Let's hear your opinion as opposed to
my opinion is that this government has its highs and its lows. There are areas that did well, and there are areas that have failed. And that's what any analyst anywhere in the world will tell you.
So what should they do better?
It's all about. In fact, without even, I don't want to waste the time of listeners or what have you, but my opinion is that that guy in black, I'm sorry, because he's already in public, so I have to have an opinion about him.
Okay, so we have to focus on the issues. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go on and deviate from the issues at hand. So, Naja, quickly respond to that, and we'll give it to you.
Seeing as he addressed me directly, I'd like to respond directly. There is not a single sector of the Nigerian economy or security space that you would say has not worsened on some level in the last 4 years. Yes, there have been appreciable gains in the fight against Boko Haram, but we have security worsening across northern Nigeria. Yes, we have seen, even by the ERGP document of the government, we have entered and exited a recession. But even their own benchmarks that they set in the ERGP document, they did not meet their own benchmarks. That is failure. If you had 3 states in 2015 where you had, INEC had to conduct elections in 3 states that had IDP camps, and then in 2019, INEC is conducting elections in 15 states with IDP camps. I'm sorry, that is failure in security. If you are looking at corruption, and we're fighting, and the allegations, substantial allegations against many credible members, many senior members of the administration and the political party that don't get prosecuted, investigated, or dealt with in any way whatsoever, that is failure. And I will justify it. If Harry is willing to have a conversation with me, I can show him everything.
Adetunji, so this selection process, beyond the president, there's the National Assembly where they screen these people and then they approve. So they have a role to play. So it's not just the president. Everybody has a role to play in this. Moving forward, what do you think we should consider from a proactive position now for the next 4 years, from both the presidency and the National Assembly?
So well, the thing for me is this. Both the National Assembly and the executive should look, first of all, about who can we put as a minister that would, all his goal is the national interest of Nigeria. You must understand the philosophy of whoever you're bringing. So if you, first of all, can pick your ministers from somebody who you think would be able to have the mental strength, not capacity, mental strength, to make those tough decisions that will be for the general interest of Nigerian interest, then you are already having a good candidate, and it's already halfway done. But as you pointed out, the National Assembly must this time exercise their right to turn down. They should investigate. The era of come and take a bow and go should end. In fact, it's so sickening when somebody comes to Parliament to be vetted and you say, "Oh no, take a." You should criticize. You should critique.
Sometimes they don't even have the portfolio.
Exactly.
Of the people
You should look at all his stages of life, his family background, what are his contemporary, his business interests, his political. You should check all of that. You should scrutinize, and that's when you would truly have people that probably, when they find themselves in a tough political situation, would always be able to make a very sound decision as our determination as a minister. And I want to worry about certain ministry. Ministry of Health is fundamental. So they should put politics behind Ministry of, whoever emerges as Minister of Health, Minister of Education, because you can't have a great country without re-engineering, restructuring your educational system. I was having a conversation with Onaja just before we came on. Our education system is a total failure, not as a fault of a minister, but as a nation. So you must then get somebody who can take a very difficult situation and turn things around. So again, I'll go to Ministry of Trade and Investment, because you want, the economy to grow. So those Ministry of Planning and Budget, those ministry, and of course Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, in my personal opinion, I think it was a mistake to even harmonize all of that, because that's where your critical agenda of improving the economy,
that's the infrastructure,
your infrastructure, your security, that's where it all lies. So you must pay particular attention. The Minister of Finance, they've been doing so well. Again, I will add Minister of Foreign Affairs to the list of ministries that I want them to go out and really make very sound decisions about who emerges as minister.
Paul Alaje of SPM Professionals, welcome to the Weekend Show, sir.
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, gentlemen. Good morning. So I'll start with you, Mr. Paul. This free trade agreement, when it was signed, I was very elated. All the African countries have been waiting for Nigeria in particular to sign this agreement. And when President Muhammadu Buhari did that, I thought it was very commendable. However, there's a little barrier that I'm sure will be addressed going forward. The different currencies these African countries have. How are we going to mitigate that factor when doing trade with these different African countries?
Yeah, I think first it might be important for people to understand what Nigeria signed, what Nigeria wants to be part of. When we talk about Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, what it means is that African countries now have opportunity, particularly businesses in Africa, to export without necessarily paying tariff, which means competition among African countries would increase. What it means, if we want to paint an instance, is South Africa may manufacture shoes and sell to Nigerians without necessarily paying tariff, which means Nigerian local producer, we have to do more. You cannot just say that because I produce in Nigeria, therefore buy Naija or buy Naira. It's not a single market. The good news here is that Africa is faced with over 1.2 billion people in terms of market, a little below India. India has over 1.3, but Africa is fast because of population growth rate is fast approaching that. Now, the good news for entire Africa, before I go to the issue of currency, is trade among African countries in 2016 was only between 16 to 18%. It is projected to grow by more than double of that in 2021 by signing this agreement. Now, what appears to be the bad news in signing this agreement is, what are we going to sell to the rest of African countries? Where do you import your shirt from, your fabric from? Nice attire. In Nigeria, they say you are wearing traditional, I am wearing foreign. But there is nothing foreign, there is nothing traditional, because where your clothes come from, I can bet with you, is where my clothes come from. Yours is sold in Nigeria, mine is sold in Nigeria, but where are the jobs? So if it's sold in, say, if your fabric is produced, say, Egypt or South Africa, then it's good news for Africa. But all of these are still coming out from the entire African continent. So what will drive transaction, of course, as she asked me, is the currency. No African regional countries have had single currency. So perhaps that is why Nigeria, among other countries, West Africa, was told to go try West African single currency and see how that will be. That will have a lot of positive implication on the entire continent. But countries with huge population, I repeat, countries with huge population, we have to face two options if they are not prepared for this agreement. It's either they become import victims or they become export victors. By import victim, you can now consume goods even cheaper than you were consuming them. So woman hair that's relatively expensive is produced in Africa is going to be cheaper because other countries will want to supply to the same market. So people have incentive to consuming more. But if those countries not producing, by all means, they are miserable.
On this segment, we will be discussing debunking the myths around the coronavirus. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen all sorts of messages on WhatsApp platforms, on social media, and everywhere telling us about one thing or the other about the COVID-19 virus, which is spreading around the world. In Nigeria, it has been reported that 12 cases have been confirmed of people suspected to have gotten the coronavirus. It's also been reported by the NCDC that the first case has tested negative, and so while tests are still going on, we do hope that more people end up being negative and the spread will be curtailed. But the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has been actively informing members of the public and Nigerians daily on the virus and the spread and how to prevent it. However, this hasn't stopped the messages. A lot of lies, a lot of rumors, from Nostradamus to predictions by Saddam Hussein and all sorts of people talking about this virus. But we are here today to do our job, informing the public about the do's and don'ts, the reality about this virus, and what lies we should stay away from to keep everybody healthy. It's also important to note that we're practicing social distancing here in the studio, so my guest is all the way far from me. He is Emmanuel Okala. He is a pharmacist and a public health expert. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Good morning, Andy.
Good morning. Now, to our viewers at home, to people who aren't medical practitioners, who don't know what COVID-19 is versus coronavirus, or if it's the same thing, if it's different, or if it's a class, there's now the name, the China virus, amongst others. What is this? What is this coronavirus?
Okay. Coronavirus is actually a class of viruses that has been in existence for quite a while with us. If you recall, we used to have the MERS and the SARS. They're all part of the coronaviruses. However, the current one, which is spreading around the world, it's a novel one, meaning it's a new strain that is transmitted from, of course, it was assumed, transmitted from animal to man, and now human to human transmission is ongoing. So it was codenamed COVID-19 by the World Health Organization. So COVID-19 is the current one, while coronaviruses is the general class of viruses that have similar signs and symptoms.
Something a lot of people have been debating, does the name matter? Because we've heard, for instance, Ebola was named after Ebola, Lassa fever, amongst many others. They've been named based on location. Does it really matter what it's called?
To me, I don't think the name matters because the name doesn't even make sense to my grandmother in the village. So it's what is going on, what is happening to the person that really matters to to the people. So I don't think the name should be an issue, even though the superpowers are trying to make it an issue, but I don't think it's that important. Yeah, what do you see? What does the person present with? And what can be done about it? That's the most important part for me.
So the first myth which we would like you to discuss or debunk, hand dryers.
Yeah.
Some people have said hand dryers can chase away the virus if it's on your hand or your body part. How effective is this?
Okay, there are so many schools of thought to hand dryers anyway. Now, the virus can survive below 70 degrees centigrade. Anything above 70 degrees is probably going to kill it, right? So for how long can you keep your hand under a dryer at 70 to 100 degrees centigrade? That's a question we should ask those that use the dryer. So the most important thing to do is, of course, wash your hands, and then you dry with tissue and dispose the tissue. That's the best practice. Yeah.
Okay.
Hand dryers also has its pluses and minuses. So I'll give it a 50-50 for those that can keep their hands there as long as possible to eliminate the virus.
Doing anything
But I
else.
doubt if there's really anybody that can do that. So the safest thing to do is wash your hands, use disposable tissue, and throw it away safely.
Now, we've also seen a lot of messages talking about taking a lot of garlic and lemon. Medically, garlic has been known to help with a lot of health concerns, and then lemon is our go-to in most cases. Does this actually help our immune systems, or does this have any impact on this virus?
Yeah, garlic helps the immune system from literature, but its effect on the virus is not known. It doesn't have any effect on the virus. However, if you can boost your immune system, you have a chance of recovery, but not preventing the virus from coming anyway. So, but people drinking, you remember the Ebola time, people had to drink salt and water, and a lot of people had to die and had to lose their lives because of that. So it's the same line of action. We should be careful what we take in, at what concentration, at what volume, at what quantity. These things are not known. So when you tell someone to drink garlic, he's probably going to drink a bucket of garlic or a cup of garlic. So what is he going to drink to stay safe?
Too much of everything.
Yeah, so the information needs to be tailored towards the goal, which is to boost your immune system.
You're now watching the lifestyle segment of the weekend show, brought to you by HoloCrunch. Crunchy.
Yummy goodness.
Today we'll be discussing the effects of COVID-19 on students across the nation, particularly university students. Joining us, we have
Adana Okoha from Now University. We also have Robert Nwachi Blair from Bayes University. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
welcome. I always feel younger being in the midst of students. So let's talk about the effects this pandemic has had on you. I know for private universities, the experience is a little bit different from those who are attending federal universities. But as a student today, what has the COVID-19 pandemic, how has it affected your studies?
Okay, so, I mean, studying from home is not easy, can't be. You're used to a certain environment, and then you are drastically taken away from that environment, and you have to study and do your daily activities at the same time. So it could be challenging. And then online schooling is also difficult because, I mean, we're in Nigeria, network is bad. Your data can decide to mess you up in the middle of your class, and then you disconnect and miss vital information. So.
Robert, do you have friends who are also in public universities? And so while like in Bayes, you lectures are still, you already had a bit of online interaction with your lecturers and academic system.
Yeah.
How do you think this affects your peer, your mates who are on the other side of the table who have been home for a while? There's been strike for a bit. Do you think that has a negative effect or an obvious effect when it comes to the difference between those of you in private schools and those in public schools?
Yes, I think it does actually. The pandemic had brought out a lot of obscurities with with various sectors of Nigeria, and the educational sector is not left out. It shows the variance between private schools and public schools. Since April, I've been having continuous lectures. I've written exams. and I have an ongoing semester. So my academic work has not been placed on hold indefinitely. But unfortunately for my counterparts in public schools, they can't say the same because they have been at home, probably had strike before the lockdown was effected, and now they're at home. Their academic studies have been postponed indefinitely, and they possibly may face another strike after the lift. And I don't think it's good for a student who wants to actually just finish school, to have to wait over 8 months or more than, I believe they deserve more.
The topic of discussion today is managing healthcare waste in the COVID-19 era. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know, has given us an opportunity to use face masks and other personal protective equipment. But what about the disposal of these personal protective equipments, face masks, hand sanitizer, and what have you? Today on the program, we'll be talking about the proper way to dispose of these items and what the federal government as well as CSOs are doing to ensure that this is implemented across the 36 states of the nation and the FCT. Joining us in today's program, we have
Professor Aziu Jaru, Director General, National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRIA. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Also, Adiza Ujo. She is the convener, Stewards of Environment for Sustainable Change Initiative, Stop, Don't Drop. Also, my pleasure to welcome Dr. Remi Saliu, a lecturer, Department of Environmental Health, Faculty of Health Science, National Open University of Nigeria, also a member of the Environmental Health Council of Nigeria. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you so much.
welcome, gentlewomen, gentlemen.
Thank you. Why did your organization choose to focus on managing COVID waste?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. And so how Stewards of the Environment even started was because of a problem we discovered at our drinking water source, which is at Usman Dam. So we did a cleanup there, and we discovered that there was the presence of medical waste, especially, and other microplastic and a bunch of other waste items that we found there. And as we continued our campaign, we discovered that the Usman Dam is like a containment, a water like a source, and then there were activities of people along the streams was impacting the drinking water source. So we began, that was how we were born actually, we began campaigning and advocacy around the issues of waste and waste management, especially with regards to our drinking water sources and things that are so dear to our health. And so we started this campaign, and it led us to the fact that because of the activities of human activities around the streams or tributaries that connect to Usman Dam, we are faced with a number of problems. So in 2019, we partnered with a German Green Foundation, HBS, and also the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA, and we did a research, and we discovered the presence of pharmaceuticals in our drinking water sources, analgesic and also antibiotics. And so we brought together the stakeholders, the government agencies that are in charge of the different agencies in charge of managing, of course, our drinking water source, our environment, Satellite Island Development Authority. We're happy also to have NESRIA present as well. And we began this conversation about managing healthcare waste and what the problems are. And we discovered that there were a lot of gaps, especially because there's a lot of challenge in terms of managing healthcare waste. And if it's not properly managed, it can actually be disastrous for the entire citizenry of the country, especially when it's coming through your drinking water sources. When you turn on your tap and you don't even know what you're drinking. But we know for a fact that Waterboard has a treatment facility which treats the water before it gets to the home. But the fact that we're finding this in our environment, in our drinking water sources, created this whole conversation. We started with government agencies. And so February this year, we had a multi-sectoral dialogue. We brought together all the government stakeholders, and we began this conversation, and we identified some of the gaps in this in managing healthcare waste. Directly, those that are generated from the hospitals, the very process of transportation, everything has its own flaws. So we're thinking of how to work with them to kind of address these issues and to kind of fill in the gaps, address these issues. And then suddenly COVID-19 happened, and then COVID-19, a lot of medical waste is being generated, and we're like, okay, so we already have a healthcare system that is not properly managing the waste in the community, because we're finding syringes, with needles intact in our drinking water sources. We're discovering analgesic and antibiotics in our drinking water sources, in our environment. People are exposed to so much damage, Also, when it goes to the dump site, we have so much gaps and so much. So we started engaging more and say, okay, now COVID is here and it's very contagious, right? So how do we now work with government to see that this is actually tackled? So we're getting support to try to see, to work with government agencies and the various agencies involved in managing healthcare waste and, of course, COVID waste to try to address this issue. So
I have two gentlemen. I have a honorable member of the Federal House of Representatives, Honorable Kabir Tukur. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you very much.
It's also my pleasure to welcome an international trades lawyer and a policy expert, Adetola Onayemi. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Tola, what exactly is going on in the world with the sale of oil right now, and why is the price constantly falling at this point?
So you've got to put a lot of things in context, and I think earlier this week, a number of friends reached out to me, and I had to do a thread on Twitter about this. So it's a range of issues you've got to put in context. First is that the COVID-19 started at the earlier part of the year, end of last year into this year, January. The largest importer of oil and one of the biggest consumers of oil in the global market is China. So China guzzles a lot of the world's oil. So COVID-19 and the fact that they had to shut down their economy to take care of that public health crisis meant that to a great extent, a good part of the world's oil demand dropped. Now the thing is, it's economics, basic economics, demand and supply. If the demand for oil is not as much and the supply is, what's going to happen generally is that price will drop. But then something interesting also happened around that time. So over the last few years, OPEC and non-OPEC countries, OPEC generally led by Saudi Arabia, non-OPEC countries generally led by Russia, have over the last few years come up with an arrangement that has helped maintain oil prices, right? And the truth is, we've had some of the most long run of a good oil price for the last few years, because what's happened is they've come to this arrangement of cutting down their supply, so agreeing what everyone can supply, and to that great extent determining what the supply in the market is so that you can determine what the price looks like. And that's been going on for the last few years. But what's happened is that because of that, the price has gotten so high that the US shale producers have now also become very competitive. So generally, at best price, at the most competitive price in the US, a shale producer needs about $23 per barrel, right? But the truth is, and that's the most competitive, but the truth is, an average, most of them need about $50 per barrel. And the truth is, for the last few months, and maybe even it's been way over $50 thanks to that arrangement between OPEC and non-OPEC. So what's happened is Saudi has seen a case where its share of global oil price, global oil supply has declined. Russia has seen the same. And so what happened is, so when the supply from China cut in half, Saudi Arabia's first push was to say, you know what, let's get to new production cuts to ensure that we can regulate price again. And then Russia declined. Russia said, listen, we're not going to do that this time. We're just going to go all the way out. And to retaliate, what happened was Saudi Arabia said, you know what, let's go all the way. And Saudi Arabia started pumping and dumping into the market. Now, and I should say this, and people don't say this, but one of the interesting things that the Saudi monarch has done over the last few years is that regardless of the fact that they had oil cuts, they've been maintaining their production capacity. So Saudi Arabia can easily produce 12 million barrels a day, easily. And so what's happened is they're pumping that $12 million a day, which they had not been pumping for the while, into the global oil market. And if you know anything, Saudi Arabia's crude is one of the best in the world, Saudi oil, right? So getting Saudi oil ensures that every other oil then drops in price. So the Russian Ural drops in price, the WTI drops in price. In fact, it got so bad last week that the Australian oil dropped as low as less than $10 a barrel, right? And so what's happened is all around prices just reacted that way. And last week, it fell so bad that at some point, it got to the lowest it's been since 2003. Brent oil dropped as far as $25 per barrel. And so that's basically what's happened. So what's happened is COVID has cut Russia, the world supply. The two people who, to a great extent, have helped regulate that price have, to a great extent, just gone all the way out. And so what it means is that a number of the shale oil producers in the US have become unproductive. A number of the biggest oil producers are having to review. A number of the countries that have to depend on oil are having to review. And I would say this, right? And I make a joke about it. I feel like in hindsight, when we look back at this incident, we'll find out that we probably all overreacted, right? Because the truth is, what's happened is everyone is then reacting to that uncertainty, and then stock markets are crashing. So it's more than become the panic effect and the cyclical effect of not or even beyond oil now. So people saying, oh, oil is crashing, what's that going to be for my stock? What's that going to, and so everything is then reacting wildly. And governments have thrown so much money at it in the last few weeks. But the truth is that's exactly what's happened.
10 hours ago, I read an article from Bloomberg Africa saying the CBN Nigeria will devalue its currency by about 15%. Now, I state that it's from Bloomberg Africa, so I've not seen this from the federal government of Nigeria. And so in the last couple of weeks, people have spoken about devaluing the Naira and back to diversifying our economy. As a member of House of Representatives, if you have your constituents who look up to you to be a voice for them in the federal legislative chamber, what's your take on the falling price, and what do you think the House should be doing right now? Because this ideally is an economic state of emergency for us as a nation.
Thank you very much. As regards the falling oil prices, it's inevitable for us. We're in that state where it has to happen. Looking at the two factors that are causing it right now. First is the disagreement between Russia and OPEC countries. So looking at that, you know that, and then coupled with the COVID-19. So there are two things that came to culminate into what is happening today. The COVID-19 on its own, like he rightly said, has cut down demand, I think China by 20%. So that has seen with production, but no markets for it. And it's across other countries as well, not only China. So as a member of the House of Representatives and looking to represent my constituents in this issue, my opinion, now personal opinion, not the House's opinion, is that the Naira has to be devalued. I think we're at the point where this would serve, might benefit the Nigerians. Now, this is it. The price of PMS has reduced and subsidy has been removed, yeah? So it is an opportunity for us to maintain that. And
has subsidy actually been removed?
Well,
so reportedly?
Reportedly removed. Okay. So it's an opportunity for us to just let the market determine itself. Let's just go with it like that. If the price of crude increases and cost of production and all of that, let's just allow the market determine itself. I think that's just what's best for us.
Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you very much, Andy, and thank you, Sasu, for having us.
Yeah, most welcome. So I'll start with you, Dr. Obiora. What qualifies as medical negligence?
Thank you, Asas. Well, as a medical practitioner, a doctor in particular, if you are supposed to handle a patient, if you owe a patient a duty of care and you couldn't deliver on that duty of care, or you handle it in breach, that is what qualifies as medical negligence. So number one, you must owe that patient a duty of care. Then two, you must owe that patient a duty of care. Two, then you are found to be derelict in your duty. Then three, that duty, that dereliction causes damage to an individual. And then four, it could cause harm and the rest of them. And that is what you could qualify as a medical negligence. And that is a body of law that you can sue an individual for malpractice.
Okay, doctors, I've seen a lot of doctors talk about how, oh, we are humans also. Sometimes we get tired, sometimes we work for 24 hours straight, and some of these things happen. But you have situations where Nigerians are diagnosed for something, sometimes in Nigeria. A good example, I have a sister who was diagnosed for a certain situation in Nigeria and was told she needed surgery. And so we were privileged enough to send her out of the country. And when we went, we realized that all she needed were just different prescription, and so she didn't have to do that surgery. What really is the problem?
I think basically, Andy, you look at two things. You look at context and you look at capacity. Okay, so I think those are two very important things. So whenever you talk about medical negligence and malpractice and stuff like that, you need to look at the environment that you are in and look at capacity. So in capacity in terms of the human resource for health, the human beings who are actually delivering this health care, and look at the environment in which they're delivering that care. So the key issues of medical negligence, you would look from those perspectives. So, for example, the place where your sister went to actually have that diagnosis, did they have the capacity to actually make that diagnosis in the first place? Did they have the hardware? Did they have the kind of instrumentation that they need or anything they need to actually provide that kind of care or to make that diagnosis? So it has to be looked at in context. So, and that's why it's really, really important that you look at things like actually training of staff, actually not just training in terms of the technical skills, but the soft skills and what I call the non-technical skills. Because if a facility, for example, cannot provide a diagnosis for your sister, they should be able to communicate that and say, hey, we don't have the capacity to actually make this sort of diagnosis. We might think it's this, or this, but we really don't know.
We spoke about this recently. The immediate past Minister of Health, this type of situations came up, and he said we have a surplus of doctors in Nigeria, and so none of them have to be consultants. And so that's number one. But also, when you talk about context, how many average Nigerians know that this hospital has only one doctor and one nurse? How many Nigerians can afford, within the case of context, going from one hospital to another to check? I had a situation from someone who responded to us on Twitter saying about 2 weeks ago they lost a sister who was pregnant, and this was after they had gone to one hospital, then to National Hospital, and then to the third hospital, had to pay 500,000 naira before she was attended to, and she still lost her life. Most people don't have the money. They don't understand how the system within the hospitals work. So what, Dr. Obiora, what is NMA doing about this?
Thank you, Andy and Osas. I think, first of all, the issue of having enough doctors, I don't think the minister is correct.
That was Dr. Ngige. He's actually the minister for labor.
He's a doctor, unfortunately, and I don't think he is correct, or he has lost his statistics. Normally, if you take about the number that we have now in this country, I don't think we have up to
40,000.
Roughly 40 to 40,000 doctors.
For almost 2 million people, for almost 200 million people.
For 200 million Nigerians. And the World Health advocates that you have, if you're a consultant, one consultant to 6 patients. So I don't know how many consultants are within this 40,000 doctors in a whole. Then if you are not a consultant, you are general first degree MBBS holder, you are supposed to one patient to at least 10 to say 20 patients, one doctor to 20 patients. So, and you have that, and you divide 40,000 by 200 million Nigerians, and then you see that we are far below what we're supposed to get in terms of World Health approved or standard. Now, for NMA, we are interested in preventing this problem because we know that the problem is enormous and it's on the increase. So what we are doing at the angle of NMA is to prevent it. We've started by making sure that any doctor that wants to practice must have a kind of a seal. Then when you write anything, you put your seal, and then we know that this thing is coming from you. And if we see any telltale sign of somebody that could lead to negligence or malpractice or anything that we want to call it, then we pick that at the board. Then the second, we also at NMA level, for you to do a practice, for you to practice in a year, you should obtain an annual practicing license. And for you to get that annual practicing license, you must have what we call CME, what we call continuous medical education, and NMA certified continuous medical education. And you have to produce minimum of 20 points or 20 credit units as you might want to interpret it. So for you to get that, you must have gone through some retrainings.
Joining us today to discuss the issue of constituency projects, we have
with us a member of the House of Representatives in the 9th National Assembly, Honorable Victor Mela Danzarea from Gombe State. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you, you're welcome.
We also have with us Henry Omokaye, who is Senior Program Officer, Budget and Head of Northern Nigeria Tracker. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Good morning, thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen. I'll start with you, Honorable. What is usually considered before nominating a project in the budget termed as constituency project? So if you want to nominate a project for your constituency, what are the factors that you consider?
Yeah, there are various factors to consider in nominating projects for your constituency. First, you have to do an assessment, the needs of the people. It's important because this is one of the areas where the dividends is being felt. Personally, we run a campaign based on manifesto, and we told our people we're going to come to them, talk to them, what do they need? Then we bring those things they need. You don't just take a project and take it to a constituency. How about, I'll give you an example. There's an area where they had 2 clinics, and unfortunately, somebody took another clinic there. What would they use that for? And so that is why engaging the constituency itself to bring out the democratic dividends through the constituency project. That is what we are going to consider, and I believe that's what some of the lawmakers are considering.
Henry, so for the average Nigerian, it's a bit complicated because the state governments, they have their budgets. The MDAs and at the federal level, they also have their budgets. Why is there even a need for the members of the National Assembly to fulfill their constituency projects by inserting this into the budget? However, with budget and tracker, you track constituency development projects which have been put in the constitution. Tell us about that process and what you've experienced so far.
Okay, constituency projects, they are actually developmental capital projects nominated by legislators in the both state and national assemblies. The concept is very good, but the process has been abused over time. The role of a legislator is to nominate the project. Then these projects will be domiciled in the ministry, department, and agencies for implementation. But what you see these days is, instead of them nominating the project and play an oversight role to ensure the projects are implemented so that it will bring dividends of democracy to people at the grassroots, you see connivance with MDAs to abuse the process. So in 2014, we looked at how much has been spent on constituency projects over the years since 1999 that they started, that the lawmakers pushed the constituency projects through during the presidency of President Olusegun Obasanjo. We looked at how much has been spent and assessed the impact of this constituency project in the life of ordinary Nigerians. And we saw that the process was totally abused. So we now said, okay, let us even have a way, an initiative that we'll use in tracking these projects, reach out to the communities, let them know. Because what we found out when we started in 2014, what we find out is ignorance of the people was what their elected leaders was using against them. Because these people, they barely know what was on the budget for them. They don't know. So we took it upon ourselves as a responsibility to go to these grassroots to let them know that, teach them what is budget, tell them what is in the budget for them for each year, then tell them how to go about it, to reach out to their elected representatives to ask questions on those projects. So we came out with an initiative called Tracker. Tracker is a platform is a platform where active citizens track capital projects in their locality. They can upload pictures on the platform. So we did it in two platforms, and we'll have one online platform and the offline platform. The offline platform is, what we do on the offline platform is to go to the budget, then extract the capital projects as regards to a constituency project, extract the capital projects, then we'll go to those communities, enlighten them, tell them that look at what is in the budget for you for this year. So we'll find out if the project is ongoing or not. Then we'll have a town hall meeting, then we'll write a letter, ask them to write a letter, reach out to their representative to ask questions about the project.
But Mr. Henry, do you take into cognizance during your methodology that not the entire amount that is allocated for setting project is actually appropriated? Do you take that into cognizance? Because I know in the past, I think it was the 2016 budget, I think 100 billion, I need to get those facts right, were appropriated to legislators, but I believe only a fraction of that was actually appropriated, released at the end of the day. So do you take that into cognizance when you're tracking these funds and educating the masses on the grassroots level?
Yes, we do that.
Okay.
So what we do is, the starting point is we don't just go there and incite the people against their leaders. No. What we do, before we go there, we have a first-time information on the project that will be cash backed. So we go there. Sometimes, if like for this year, I just released like 2 months ago, they released like 70 billion for 2080 constituency projects. So we know when money has not been released, we'll go there. We'll let them know that look at what is coming to your constituency, but money has not been released for this project. But we'll keep you updated. If anytime they release money, we'll come back to you again to tell you to reach out to your representative to ask them questions on the project. So that's what we'll consider
From
that.
our research, we found that most of these constituency projects are not actually implemented. We spoke to a couple of people on the grassroots level, and they told us that at the end of the day, what ends up happening, because these funds never are giving to the lawmakers cash in hand, what they are done is nominated, as we said, in a ministry, department, or agency. It's allocated in the budget. Then the lawmakers nominate a contractor to implement this project. But most times, unfortunately, he ends up being one of their cronies, one of their friends, and they don't actually execute the contract. So, Honorable, how do we peg this? How do we nip it in the bud and ensure that these constituency projects, as you said, are implemented and the dividends of democracy are felt by your constituents?
Very correct. The work of a legislator is making laws, representation, and providing oversight. It's important. What Trackers is doing is good. And New Age, the government of Nigeria, is focused in helping Nigerians. For us to have these areas or ways to make sure this implementation is going on rests on the shoulders of all representatives and also the people of the community. So what we as a party is making sure that the APC government, it wants to make sure that every democratic dividend gets to the poor people, gets to the grassroots. And so every member of the Senate or the House of Representatives have a duty to provide oversight for all those constituency projects. Let me give you an example. Even our predecessors, personally, we are going to take stock of constituency projects from 2015 to 2019 that have been executed by the members or by my predecessor. We are going to assess it. Did they achieve, was it adequately carried out? Or if there are failed projects, we'll put on notice. And this is not about witch hunting, it's about accountability. Members of the House of Representatives and our distinguished senators are accountable to whatsoever the government is giving out to them. Like I said, nominating those projects, these are projects that are essential for some of these communities. But you're right, sometimes you find a conniving, sometimes you find out that those projects are not being executed like my friend here rightly said. But it is our responsibility. It's not going to be business as usual. Things have changed. We will have to provide oversight for every project in our constituency. At least for me, Honorable Victor Mella, I intend to work with my constituency to tell them, give out information. That is what is lacking, like he said. They don't know about these things. In the past, they thought every member is given money, millions of naira to go and do stuff. They don't know much about nomination of this project. It is about nominating the project. Even capital project in our area, as a lawmaker, I intend to supervise it, to provide oversight, to report to the MDAs, whether it's ongoing or not. So contractors should watch out. If you are given money to provide service or to build infrastructure in Balanga Federal constituency, you better do it right. If not, we'll come after you and we'll tell Tracker, we'll get information from Tracker. It's all about the people.
And you come on the weekend to expose them.
On the lifestyle segment today, we will be discussing skills development, youth empowerment, and productivity. In the last couple of years, we've seen unemployment rates grow from 16% to 18% and then to 23%. It's also been projected that in the next 5 years, if steps aren't taken, we may get unemployment as high as 30%. With the recent coronavirus pandemic, it's known that unemployment has already increased, so the numbers have actually gone higher than we would have expected. Interestingly, the Federal Executive Council just this past week agreed that there would be a 75 billion naira fund for the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, which is entirely great. But how does this help the young people, especially in a time where we've seen young people, we've seen jobs being sent to certain zones or certain people? How can this reflect on the economy, in development, and with young people? Discussing this with me on the lifestyle segment, I have Bright Jaja. He is the CEO and founder of iCreate. He was listed in in the Forbes 120 Top African Voices and a nominee for the Future Awards. Welcome to the Weekend Show, Bright.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's also my pleasure to welcome Chidera Cherish Ezenwafo. She's a lawyer and a youth advocate. I met you a year ago at the Youth Entrepreneurship Awards and Summit. So welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you very much.
Bright, let's get to it. In 2017, I read an article where you spoke about iCreate working to empower young people in the bids to create at least 5 million jobs in about 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's about a year or two since then. So this is the good part with data and the internet. But I've seen work which you've done with your with trainings and programs you've done. I remember even being a resource person in one years ago in some school. So well done. Exactly when you started. So I've watched your progress. And you had the introduction. Unemployment rate is constantly increasing. However, there's the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, which the Federal Executive Council has agreed to, 75 billion naira to empower about 63 million youths, which I think is extremely important and great if it's implemented properly. But you have spoken about the fact that it's not that there's a lack of employment, it's more of a skill gap. Can you speak to us about that?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, I want to commend the federal government for the move. I think it's really, really timely. But at the same time, we need to actually focus on what is key, and that is having young people to be part of that conversation. I think that's one of the biggest problems. Whenever we talk about the young people, whenever there's a conference or there's a committee put together to talk about the problems that are affecting young people, you don't find young people in that conversation. So it's more like they're just handing over whatever decision or whatever ideas they have to us without understanding where, you know, where the shoe actually fits or where it pains. You know. So at the end of the day, I feel the key thing is to find a way to get young people into the conversation. For the past 2 years, I would say, we started this mission to empower young people with technical and vocational skill trades because we felt like that is the future. That's the future of work. The future of work is not determined by your location or by your education. It's determined by what you can do with your hands, what you can create, the value you can add with your skills. And so we decided to, we also understood the fact that a lot of young people were not interested in technical and vocational skill trade. The whole mentality of a white-collar job is a symbol of success, drove a lot of young people towards that direction. And while they were struggling to fit into a position, there were 20 million jobs, or maybe more, available in technical and vocational skill trades. People wanted hairdressers and plumbers and tilers and bricklayers and carpenters. There's a lot of need and demand in these industries. And so we also discovered that the reason why a lot of young people are not going to other industries was because there were no, the profitability was really low. And then when it comes to the societal perception, it was really, really not an image that anybody wanted to identify with. So we started by changing that perception using our skill competitions and creating a structure where we could identify people who could train and connect them to the people who needed training. And so far, we've actually trained more than 5,000 people. For the past 2 years, we're actually designing a pilot. So we did the pilot and it worked, empowered up to 5,000 people, and empowered up to 350 people with funds and tools and all of that. Now we're going to the stage where we can now, replicate that system across the country. And we believe that if we're able to empower 1 million people and we identify those 1 million people and attach 5 people to them each to run apprenticeship and training, by the end of 5 years, we'll be able to empower 5 million people. Because if 1 million people empower 5 people each, that's 5 million. So we've studied the concept, we've perfected it, we've created a technological platform which we launched a couple of weeks ago, the Scalers platform, where we can connect skill professionals to clients, where they can sell their service and also sell their skills. Be very
Thank
productive.
you very much, Brad. I think that was brilliant. I'll let you, Cherish, have the final words.
Okay.
What's your advice to young people who are interested in creating a balance and creating a niche for themselves, regardless of their economic and financial situation? What's your final words to them?
All right, so first, I'm a lawyer, and that would mean, I'm doing well. But for everything that I'm doing that has become very impactful to my life is my need or my desire to speak about the needs of others. And that was created because I was looking for platforms, apart from what Nigeria can offer, that could help me achieve my dreams and impact lives. I think young people should look into the Sustainable Development Goals that were put in place by the UN. Now, one thing that thing did for me during my service here was it opened my mind to the possibilities of doing things that I cannot do within Nigeria, that Nigeria has limited me from doing. Now, I found areas that were important to me, and then I went for trainings. I was opportunity to be trained by a German foundation for 9 months on political education before even going for my master's, for free. Now, I wouldn't have gotten that knowledge ordinary without paying some good cash. So the Sustainable Development Goals has opened many opportunities for young people to come out. We see that you're bright. It was called the Open Mind Young Voices, for example. And young people who were smart, like 24 of us, sat in one room deliberating about how to change Nigeria. Imagine being in such a room all the time. And so tomorrow you need help about something. Andy, please, there's something I want to do. Well, let's come together and make it work. So I think it's high time young people go out of their way to acquire skills, to take on opportunities, to learn more, and to use every chance they have to make impact. And also, I think it's time we begin to speak up more about what we want, not just on social media, but come out, be a voice for others. Okay, this is what we want.
On
we want
platforms like this.
No, for real. Thank you for inviting me. That's why I'm even here. So being a youth advocate, a trained one at that, has actually helped me to be in places I thought I would never be. And people see people like me like, oh, Nigeria has hope. I have not done anything special. I just knew that they had to do something. I had to learn one skill or the other. And I'm grateful for people like Bright who have taken the opportunity to pick on people who can do extremely well. So there's still hope. And I think we need more young people, especially those who are already doing well, who would help other young people too. So we can make it happen. Nigeria is the only place we have to be now. And so we can make the change we want to see.
In the last couple of weeks, we've seen several government parastatals being probed by the National Assembly based on alleged misappropriation of funds. And just 2 days ago, it was reported that the National Assembly and the House of Reps has decided to probe the alleged misappropriation of 100 billion naira in the Northeast Development Commission. With all of this going on, Nigerians are questioning the fight against corruption and how it affects Nigerians, as well as how corruption or alleged misappropriation in the NEDC could affect the fight against terrorism. And to discuss this, we have with us in the studio Solomon Adodo, who is the president of the National Youth Council of Nigeria. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you for having me. Good day, Nigerians.
We also have with us Okpanachi Jacob, who is a political analyst and an activist. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
So I'll go straight to it, Solomon. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've seen the acting MD of NEDC faint on TV while being probed. We've seen the Minister of the Niger Delta accuse members of the National Assembly of benefiting from tons of contracts. We've also seen the Minister, Chris Ngige, who had his own display recently when he appeared before the National Assembly. And while this is happening, it's now alleged that between the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, which is quite new, and the Northeast Development Commission, there's about 100 billion naira which is said to have been misappropriated. Not necessarily that it wasn't being spent, but some of them didn't go through board approval. What's your take on the overall situation which we've seen in the last 2 weeks?
Thank you very much again. First of all, you see, we at the National Youth Council of Nigeria are pro-anti-corruption. We are pro-transparency. And we don't care whose ox is God. We want to ensure that there are no sacred cows. And the fact that all of these things are being exposed shows us that we have finally found that trajectory or pathway of hope for the country. That if you are indulging in corruption, you will be exposed and you will be dealt with. But as much as we fight corruption, you find out that people try to distort facts. I'll begin with the issue of the NDDC, that's the Niger Delta Development Commission. You found out that for the past 18 to 19 years of the commission, no meaningful impact has been made on the lives of the people of the Niger Delta. Now, Mr. President looked through that agency, the NDDC, and said, my people in the South, you deserve more, you deserve even better. Why is it that we sink in so much funds and nothing is done? And he directed the minister, let there be a forensic audit. They began to work on that forensic audit. They had an IMC and so on and so forth. And that's where the issue of those senators and members of the House of Reps who benefit from all those contracts, they now decided to use their privileged position to now start distorting facts. That's an issue. And I invite all Nigerians to take time, put on their lens of scrutiny, and look through the fine lines of everything to ascertain. You know, when the minister alleged that some members of the House of Reps and the Senate have benefited from contracts in the Niger Delta, I will tell you authoritatively, as an independent investigator, you understand, that we did our own findings, and we found out that these men, they may not get the contracts in their own name, but they have cronies, they have friends, they have associates. They will go and pressure this agency, the NDDC, and say, give them this contract.
Okay, but I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you short so that we can circle it back, because we also want to focus on this new allegations with the NEDC. And so let's circle back to this. People say there's no smoke without fire. So we've heard about NSITF, we've heard about NDDC, and now NEDC. What do you see about the current allegations against NEDC, which involves the chairman of the commission and also the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs?
What we will say at the Youth Council is that let everything be exposed. Let the probe go on. Wherever anybody has run foul of the law, there are procedures. There are procurement procedures, and everything is spelled out. The mandate of the commission, how things are to be conducted. If you miss one line, you have run foul of what should be, and anybody that does that should be prosecuted. You understand? And we are also saying that we have been calling on the National Assembly, whatever you are doing, do it on the plinth of patriotism, on the plinth of the fact, or the platform of the fact that you want a better Nigeria, no compromise anywhere. Not because maybe you did not get this contract, not because maybe this thing did not pass through you. Because you see, that thing that was thrown up by the minister, it is a huge integrity question on the members of the National Assembly. So we welcome every probe, because we don't want anything to be swept under the carpet. It is for the sake of the future of the Nigerian youth. You understand? Recently we held a rally on Monday to urge Mr. President, let the war against corruption continue unimpeded. Let the war against corruption continue irrespective of who is affected. We saw the EFCC chairman suspended already, and then so much investigation is ongoing. So we will also do our own independent investigation on what happens in the Humanitarian Affairs and also the Northeast Development Commission. Because you see, if there is no development, as it is with the Niger Delta, so it is with the Northeast. If there is development, more of the youth will channel their energies into productive endeavors. Naturally, you will find out that the terrorists will have less individuals to harvest, to perpetrate their heinous crimes. You understand? And then the more youth you have on productive endeavors, less of terrorism, it brings up a lively embrace where productivity thrives. So anything that stands against all of this, we at the Youth Council will frown at it and we will fight against it. So we call on the National Assembly, whatever they are doing, they should do it on the springboard of patriotism.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okpanacha. I'm going to bring you in. And we've heard from Mr. Dodo, and I wouldn't say it's directly pointing fingers at the National Assembly, but there are claims of misappropriation of funds. So I would actually commend the fact that the National Assembly is having this conversation and not behind closed doors. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known about that. So I'll commend the National Assembly for this. However, it's the impact of such investigations and such probes that matters. At the end of the day, what actually happens. With what's going on in the NEDC and seeing what we've seen in previous weeks from EFCC and the likes, how do you think this affects the fight against corruption? So the fact that we can see, does it mean that Mr. President is at least letting them go on freely to fight this? Or does this show that within his government, there's been a failure of leadership when it comes to fighting corruption?
Well, to a great extent, I observe some level of ineptitude.
because you see, growing up into this level where we know that NEDC started first as an initiative to raise funds for the development of Northeast, to reduce poverty in that region, to increase high level of literacy, or rather to provide education, infrastructure, and the basic amenities needed as part of reconstruction process after the insurgency, which is still on anyway. But unfortunately, we have a lot of, what's it called, internally displaced people's camps everywhere in the country. And these people that are meant to be the beneficiary of these funds are everywhere looking for what to eat on a daily basis. Yet, we hear huge sums of money being fettered away. Like the president said, we are open to probes, but probes that does not have any end. If it is too open-ended, of course, it will not make any sense. The Nigerian citizens are very patient. And if you watch what is happening, there is no connection between the social covenant, between politicians and the voters. They have pledged to protect citizens. But unfortunately, here we are, the citizens are just wallowing in abject poverty. And interventions meant for them may be on the goodwill of the president to ensure that these people are carried along in the affairs of the development of the country, are being fettered away into people's pocket. I think it is high time that we realize that, just like Benjamin Disraeli would say, youths are the trustee of posterity. But unfortunately, what posterity are we bestowing to the youth currently? I think if nothing is done, we are heading for a big crisis.
It's good that you mentioned the role of the youth, and Mr. Adodo, as a leader of the Youth Council, I saw in the last 1 week a group of young people, youth, went to protest with banners saying they 100% support the Minister of Niger Delta. The next day you would see a counter protest. We have seen a lot of marches and protests where in most cases they appeared to have been funded by the parties being fingered in these situations. What is the role of young people and organizations such as yours in ensuring that this change goes beyond talk, beyond social media, beyond just the protest, but to see that we aren't going to deal with this anymore? What are sustainable solutions to ensure that we can hold leadership accountable?
Well, I'll tell you one thing: evidence, results. Now, you find out that because of the rate of unemployment and poverty in the land, you could just get a band of youth. Even if somebody is black, they'll paint him white. We really frown at that, you understand? And they just go out with banners and everything. But we are asking these young men, particularly in the case of the Niger Delta and the saga in NDDC. We held a meeting with leaders, youth leaders in the Niger Delta region. Some of them came over the last weekend, and I spoke with them, and I said, they came, they wanted to do a rally, say, this one must go, that one must go, and I asked them, before now, was there anything like a forensic audit in the NDDC? They said no. Before now, before the forensic audit, did you see a frenetic pace of project execution at the pace you've seen now? They said no. Because immediately the forensic audit began, you found out that contractors began to move back to site. They began to execute the contracts, build the roads for which they had been paid before, and they had pocketed the money, you know, and the hospitals and everything, and things are going on. Now, if you beam the lights and say, okay, this audit must go on, which is what Mr. President is saying, that let's expose everything. It's not for us to hide it and let it fester, and then we say we are winning the war against corruption because we have not exposed corruption. If something goes wrong, it's ideal it's exposed immediately. Sorry, and that's what Mr. President did by saying, let there be a forensic
Sorry,
audit.
can you speak clearly on Mr. President's position? Was this prior to the probe with the National Assembly, or was this while this has started? Has the presidency come out to take a stand on what's going on in the NDDC, NEDC, and even EFCC. I know about EFCC, but you just said about the president saying they should ensure they carry out this forensic audit. Has this been done categorically? Has he stated this categorically?
You know, first of all, the president gave the directive before the forensic audit begun, and I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he made it very clear that there should be concerted investigations from all fronts so that there will be no escape route, so that as things are happening, let it be that the people of the Niger Delta, they benefit from the funds that go there, not to be frittered away by politicians. Now, if, for instance, there are people who benefited from contracts and never executed them in the National Assembly, and they want to use a probe as a smokescreen, Mr. President has said, no, that will not end there. While the IMC is carrying out the forensic audit or supervising the forensic audit, the Minister of the Niger Delta is overseeing that. The security agencies also should be carrying out their independent investigations. The EFCC, the Nigeria Police Force, and also discreetly the Department of State Services. So there is now a concerted approach to ensure that things that were not supposed to be no longer exist. Corruption is being swept out. To ensure that people don't just wake up and begin to carry money that is meant for the developmental projects. So what we are telling our youth, beyond coming out to say, Akpabio must go or Akpabio must stay, beyond coming out to say, oh, we stand with the National Assembly or we don't stand with the National Assembly, ask yourself, before Mr. President ordered the forensic audit, were they executing these projects in the Niger Delta like they are executing now? I told them, I said, the last time I visited, some of you hosted us, and we went on roads that met with the best quality. We saw healthcare facilities springing up because those who were to steal the money have been pressured to go back to site. So what we are saying is that the pressure should be sustained. We are not concerned about this one should go or this one should stay. What we are concerned is that whoever is fingered to have participated in this, as Nigerian youth, we should be unbiased. Our sole and singular pursuit should be the development of our communities, the securing of our future. You understand? Because if you wake up and then what is being done to secure your future, you go and scuttle it, saying this one must go or this one must stay, without looking at the nitty-gritty, like I said aforetime, evidence, results. What are the results of actions? Actions that were taken before or inactions, actions that were never taken. And what are the results of actions that are being taken now? You understand? So if these actions that are taken now have spurred the contractors to go back to site, have spurred development to be triggered, roads, hospitals, and all of this, then what I would say is that Nigerian youth support that. We will only support development.
We have with us Linus Okori, who is a leadership coach and a human capital development consultant. I've been privileged to watch you speak at a couple of events, and I've seen how you've worked with young people to help empower them, most especially with knowledge, because where there's knowledge, there's life, and with all that you do. I also read recently you're starting something new, which we'll try to find out about. But before we get to that, you watched the conversation by two brilliant young people talking about youth employment, entrepreneurship, and productivity. And so I would ask you, do you feel there's a skill gap or there are lack of opportunities in Nigeria for the large population of young people?
So let's say they are both the skill gaps.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of it. In terms of the opportunities, we need leaders, more leaders that have the capacity to push and create opportunities, just like the president just did recently, approving 75 billion for 3 years for investment in the young people in Nigeria.
About 63 million people.
That's amazing. So we need more of those types of opportunities. You know, we have the young people willing, you know, to do great stuff. All we need to do is, beyond just creating the opportunity, we also invest in their leadership competences, so that if you can build the leadership competences of young people, then you can build a nation like never before, because everybody begins to move and with speed to get things done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The enterprising capacity just come alive because there's investment in training, there's investment in redirecting young people to be able to understand where they're going to, and then there's a collaboration between the young people and the older generation. You can't, when I was younger, I used to think that, young people can do it alone. No, but you just need a collaboration, mentors, who have done stuff, achieved greatness, and then they bring out time to invest in the younger people. That's actually the way to go.
So I've seen a lot of great ideas and potentially great businesses disappear and fade away because most people feel just hard work and having the skill is all you need.
Yes.
But I believe in storytelling. Yes. And in business, the storytelling part of it is the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And so marketing takes about 60%
Yes.
of what it takes for your business to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And this also means that the leaders of the business should be able to tell their story,
Yes.
which is where public speaking and comportment comes in.
Absolutely.
And I know you're doing something, the Gotney Institute?
Yes, a very interesting thing is that for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we have just set up the most comprehensive leadership center in the country. What I mean, I travel every year so many times to invest in my personal development, from Harvard to some of the short courses I run around institutions in the world. And we spend so much money. A lot of people spend so much money traveling overseas. But what we have been able to do is that in Abuja, we have been able to create the most comprehensive leadership center with over 25 courses, short courses that are being run there, as well as mobilizing facilitators from around the world, from Brian Tracy to some of the best names in leadership development. And so I think that this is the biggest thing that is happening to this country right now, because we need to mobilize those in private sector, public sector, and invest in their leadership development, because leadership development is a language of the future. That's exactly, most of the big brands doing well in the world today, they've been impacted by leadership development like never before. So that's why this week coming week, right, we realized that public speaking and comportment, personal comportment, as well as a life of influence, it's so important for leaders to acquire public speaking skills. No leader can communicate policy effectively if he or she is not trained in the act of communication, in the act of effective communication, in the act of public speaking. Because public speaking is about making presentations that win results, that win supports. I mean, how do you get to that boardroom and they just ask you to speak about your product or service? It is the way you can speak about it that the people will everybody will be excited about it. What about the political class? In National Assembly, you want to project emotion. I mean, currently I'm training some of them privately. But the point I'm making is that every individual, whether you're a businessman, whether you are a leader in a government agency, whether you are a governor, you're a minister, it doesn't matter what position that you own in society. It is priority, top priority for you to invest in your ability to speak with power and influence, for you to invest in your capacity to comport yourself, even when you are provoked. Even when people provoke you, how do you, comport yourself in such a way that you will assertively make your point without, sounding rude, literally? How do you, take one idea from where it is right now to the next level? It's about public speaking. Public speaking is where it is. So Wednesday, Thursday next week, the Gotney Leadership Center is creating an opportunity for only 20 executives because of we're going to do physical distancing, all the safety measures, and very interesting, even those who are not available in Abuja from different parts of the world can connect, can also be part of the program and follow us live from the comfort of their bedrooms or parlors or libraries.
Is this free or is there a fee?
No, this is, no. I mean, for how many years of my life, I've done a lot of free stuff. Now we're talking about setting up an institution. I'm talking about, if you want to do public speaking in Harvard, you'll be ready to pay, $10,000, $15,000. I went to Brian Tracy. I paid $10,000 for a short course. So right now we're giving the opportunity. It's about $250,000 that people can have access to the opportunity to speak with power and influence, and that can change one's life completely, literally. And then the other thing is that those who are going to be connecting from various parts of Nigeria or Africa, can also connect at a cheaper rate, literally. But I think the numbers are available for those who are interested.
Yeah.
You want to be able to get a seat. I mean, it's an opportunity that can really transform you completely. Because first thing first is that your ability to lead yourself is a great leadership skill.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Odia. I am a TV presenter with TOS TV, and well, a lot has happened this year, 2020. Most importantly, what I'm grateful for is life. Coronavirus is still ongoing as we speak. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. We lost a lot of lives, so I'm very grateful that I am alive, and I'm thankful for family as well. And indeed, there's been a lot in the year 2024, the world at large and Nigeria especially. We saw the NSAS protest and how the country is currently handling the COVID-19 pandemic. It also, we did see a rise in gender-based violence in Nigeria as well. So looking at 2020, a lot has been learned, okay? And going forward, talking about 2021, well, I want to see a COVID-19 free world. People going out to live their lives as they love to do. And also, I want to see Nigeria move from where we are currently to a better place, a country that respects human rights and all of that. Well, I am looking forward to 2021 because I know that there's a whole lot in store for myself personally and, yes, my family, friends, loved ones, and for the country especially.
I am Dr. Omozwati Nyaru. I work with TOS TV Network as a grant and donor relations officer for the TOS Foundation. I also do a bit of presenting for the network. I'm thankful for so many things in 2020 because it has been an intense year for everybody, especially with the pandemic and all the things that we had to deal with. So I'm thankful that I'm still here and thriving. I'm thankful for family and friends who continue to support and guide me. I'm thankful for employers who are still employing and paying salaries. And with that, I'm thankful to TOS TV Network for doing the good work. I'm also thankful for the fact that I was able to do my NYSC this year. It took me 10 years because I finished my first degree in 2010 and I had to go for my master's afterwards. So many other things happened then and finally done. So Nigeria can employ me and not kick me out. Thankful for that.
My name is Nkamiang John, or better still, known as the controversial Nkamiang John. I'm a journalist, broadcast media professional, and I'm thankful for life. Yes, most importantly, life. What stood out for me in 2020? Let's see. Of course, coronavirus changed the way of life of not just everybody, but the entire world. And of course, I'm part of this world. So it changed my life, made me begin to see how to do things a lot differently than I used to in the past. So for me, yes, COVID-19.
I am Abigail Okwade and a communicator. What I'm most thankful for is health, because it's a different thing to be alive and not being healthy. It's he who is alive that can be able to work towards achieving their dreams and aspirations. And what I look forward to in 2021 is a better Nigeria, actually. Aside personal aspirations and gains, is a better Nigeria. I look forward to a Nigeria where we don't have to, say, I need to go abroad to make it, the American dream or whatever or whatnot. Why not say the Nigeria dream?
My name is Ade Sawasi. I'm a presenter with TOS TV Network.
The year 2020 has been quite a ride, roller coaster for everyone throughout the world, and I wasn't left out. I had to do lots of readjustment, lots of unlearning and relearning. I'm thankful to still have my friends around. I'm thankful for family, parents that I can call and talk to every day. I'm thankful for my job. Yeah, I'm thankful for new challenges, new tasks, having to push myself, be able to do that. There were moments that stood out for me this year, 2020. A lot of them, actually. I don't think I can pinpoint anyone, but if I'm going to just, you know, over the top of my head, I would say having to, report COVID-19 as a COVID-19 reporter, and then just having to help people the way that I could, using the media, of course, because that's my tool. Yeah, and that was the moment that stood out for me in 2020.
All right, my name is Kingsley Bangwell. I'm the Executive Director of Youngsters Development Initiative and also the co-founder of the Knox 100 Naira a Day Secondary School. We operate right here in Kuje, Abuja, Nigeria. Well, for anyone who has experienced 2020, if you're alive and breathing, the first thing to be thankful for is that you are alive. So I'm grateful to God that I'm alive. I'm grateful to God that my family is alive. But beyond that, we live for purpose. And one of our purpose has been to provide low-cost education to especially people who can afford it. So we started this 100 Naira a Day Secondary School in Kuje for children from low-income families. And so for 100 Naira a day, they get uniform, they get books, they get lunch, and they get sanitary pad every month. And then during this period, during the lockdown, kids had to stay at home. I'm grateful that during that period, our children experienced continuous learning. We were able to raise over #1 million online through social media to print workbooks that they were using every week for over 12 weeks. And interestingly, the Osasu Show Foundation was one of the supporters of that, because of course the Osasu Show is also sponsoring 5 students at the Knox 100 Naira a Day School. So we are grateful that we can fulfill that purpose despite all the challenges of 2020.
I'm Abiodun Esiet. I'm the Special Advisor to the Executive Chairman, Abuja Municipal Area Council. I'm also the President of African Young Female Advisors Initiative and the founder of Abiodun Esiet Initiative for Girls. Okay, for me, I'm thankful to God for life and for the various things that has happened over the years to show that we have to be grateful to God for giving us that life and for making us to be in existence up till now, despite everything that has happened in 2020. We've seen so many pandemics, we've seen so many insecurity outbreaks around the country, but we're still alive to really appreciate life and also to appreciate God for his mercy over us. So I'm thankful for the fact that God has made us to see so many things and has kept us safe up to now.
Yes, my name is Olumide Aturu. I'm the CEO of 5 Stars Football and Consultants Limited. It's been a tough year, from the first wave of the coronavirus up to the new news about the second wave. We're alive. That's enough to thank God for. And then, in as much as we wanted to do a lot of projects this year, but we're able to achieve some few. So we thank God for keeping us alive to this moment. So.
My name is Buki Williams. I'm the Executive Director of Education as a Vaccine. So I work in civil society. Well, that I survived. I think that's the biggest thing everyone has been really talking about, is that we survived a pandemic, which is something that was unexpected. And that's, more importantly for me, I'm really thankful for the work we were able to do at Education as a Vaccine, that we were still able to provide services for the people that we work with in the different communities that we work with, and that we were able to keep the staff safe and healthy throughout this process, and that, many of us we have things to look forward to in the next year.
Malik Ado Ibrahim is my name, and had the pleasure of being on the weekend show. Well, I think, first of all, thank God for surviving so far in the Corona era. And for Nigeria, definitely not have suffered as much as the US or Europe has suffered from the whole coronavirus. And I'm hoping and thankful for that at the barest, and, well, thankful for the country staying together. I think that's the most important thing. We've it's been a very difficult journey for everybody in Nigeria, and I'm just thankful that we've come this far.
Over the years, I've been an avid fan of the TOS show, and it's been improving by the year. A lot of moments where we learned a lot of things about youth empowerment, you know, inclusion of male and female in governance, you know. And then for TOS show, I believe we need more of sports activities, because me as a sports entrepreneur and activist, I believe there should be more inclusion of sports in your programs, and then there should be more focus on grassroots sports development, you know. So, because this serves as a connection, you know, between the lower class and the upper class. So, sports brings people together, unifies the country, and I believe with more inclusion, we can achieve greatness together. And then TOS show can really be the #1 show in Africa.
Well, I think it's a very lively environment. It's nice to see that yes, the presenters brought together a different view of what's going on in the country, and I think that breath of fresh air is what I enjoyed most about the show when I was on there, and I continue to watch that, and it's been very pleasurable.
I think the thing I enjoyed the most about TOS was the different topics that they were able to cover, the burning issues, and they were able to bring in different people from different walks of life to really discuss it and keep it on the front burner. And I think I really appreciated the work TOS did around addressing sexual and gender-based violence, not shying away from that issue, really using their platform to be able to share how big of an issue it was and how we needed everyone's hands on deck to be able to address it. I think next year would be interesting to actually feature more issues around young people. I think we take it for granted in Nigeria that we are a population that has 60% of our population is under the age of 30. And I think we need to start having conversations around what does this mean for this country. And it would be great to see OSASA, because I think they started with the big event that they did this year. But I think covering more of that and really putting that on the front burner so that we're doing more to protect and ensure that young people can thrive in Nigeria, I think that would be great.
Right, so 2021 for me is the year to further expand our horizon, deepen our strategies. The things some of the things we wanted to achieve in 2020, which we didn't, we're rolling them over in 2021. And for me, primary among those things is to galvanize more support for those kids. We are providing low-cost education at the North School. We have a couple of things we still want to do. And so for me, that was primary expectation, that we'll be able to raise more support, get more partnership, and then expand our facility, because what we're using is a rented facility, and we have about 63 kids there. What it means is that by next year new school term, we are going to be hitting about 100 plus. So we are now at the point where we need to get a bigger space. So for me, primary focus 2021 will be how to raise support and get that bigger space so that we can continue to serve that purpose of providing quality education to children from low-cost communities.
I'm looking forward to great opportunities. I'm looking forward to break more glass ceiling. Next year will be like a political preparation for me. I'm thinking of what next to do politically and making my decisions on if I'm running 2022 because I'm in FCT, or 2023 when we have the general elections. So looking up for opportunities and looking at ways to empower more women, and looking at ways to also support women that are in governance, seeing their potentials and seeing how they can leverage on their position as advisors or as aid to elected or appointed officials, and using that to change the narrative about women's inclusion and women's empowerment in Nigeria. So I'm looking forward to a lot of things, and the major ones are political.
I'm worried about this whole vaccine issue. I hope that 2021 will yes, of course, it's not going to stop from January 1st, the corona issue. I'm looking forward to a global recovery, a better economy, a safer Nigeria. And I pray to God Almighty that we all get through this as safely as possible. And we learn from these mistakes that have happened, because there's always mistakes to learn from. And we start to push our country forward, get our economy back on track, and get our kids back in school.
Children! Yes, Auntie! You are welcome to the Osasu Show Foundation. We are so happy to have you here today. You are welcome. I want you all to know that today is a special day that we've created just for you. You are here today to be celebrated, you are cared for, and you are appreciated.
My name is Sefi Amadou. I am primary 6 now going to JS1. I'm very happy today and I'm very appreciative to our Section Foundation. Thank you. I want to be a doctor because I want to help some people that they don't have money, and I want to be a doctor to do good things in our village. In our village we don't have good hospital, so that's why I want to be a doctor and I want to be very confident.
My name is Elizabeth Nuhum. I am in JSS2. I am very happy today. Thank you, Social Foundation. I am very happy.
My name is Abubakar Karba. I'm happy for them. Thank you so much.
One, two, drop it, let's go. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Do I have my judges, please? Let's look at them. I know the best dancer. Come on. Clap for him, clap for him, clap for her.
What we try to do is basically to put a smile on their faces, to remind them that they are loved, they are appreciated, and they are cared for. Every child, irrespective of their social stratification, irrespective of their social class, should know that they matter. They matter to us at the Osasu Show Foundation. They matter to the wider populace of Nigerians. So that's why we're here today, to celebrate them, to let them know that God loves them and we love them as well. In the nearest future, we're looking at making this bigger and better. Most of the children here are under our scholarship scheme. We believe that education is the most powerful tool you can give to any individual. We believe that if you equip a child with quality education, he or she can become anything they want to be. So most of the children here today are under the Osasu Show Foundation scholarship scheme. We will continue to empower children, not just with food in their bellies and waters to drink and clothes on their back, which is important, which is a basic human right. However, we focus on quality education because we know that the opportunities for you to succeed as a child who's coming from next to nothing, juxtaposed to a child who's coming with everything, is education. So if you can empower the child from the lower income homes and empower the children from the higher income homes to that quality education, then they both can have an equal playing field to strive to become anything they want to be.
Merry Christmas!
Indeed, it's been quite a year that made palindrome and global pandemic history. The good, the bad, the ugly, all encompassed into 1 year. We sincerely mourn those who lost loved ones to COVID-19, insurgency and insecurity, even the NSAS protests and other natural causes. We pray for a happier, more peaceful 2021. For us at TOS TV Network, we look forward to serving you better through shows like this. We promise to continue to deliver factual, Informative, educative, and entertaining content to you via this television platform and our digital network, tostvnetwork.com. Make sure you follow us across our social media handles at TOSTV Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter so you don't miss a thing. Again, Merry Christmas. Remember, Jesus is the reason we're alive to celebrate this season. We love you and God bless you.